Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for today, going over the core functionality of house accounts with Revel. I am your host for today, Matt Liano, and with me is Becky, who will be answering questions both during and after the presentation today. Before I get started, just wanted to point out a couple things. If you are a Revel certified reseller attending our webinar, and you have some client-specific questions, you can reach out to your channel sales account manager. And if you have any questions unrelated to house accounts, you can email info@revelsystems.com for some answers to your questions. I'll be displaying this email once again. This is also for anything even relating to house accounts that might be a specialized case that you might be able to get an answer quicker by emailing info. Resources, as always, support.revelsystems.com. Under training videos, this webinar is being recorded and will be accessible for future viewing in that section there. And today's presentation won't take up the full hour, most likely. Like I said, we're going over the core functionality of our house accounts feature. So I would like to go over what this feature is for those of you who may be new to it, how to set it up in the back end, what it looks like on the front end, and eventually what it looks like in reporting and when you invoice your customers. And then I'm going to wrap up with what it looks like in QuickBooks for those of you who are using QuickBooks. So starting off, house accounts in Revel. This is used as a form of credit for your customers. It can be enabled for an individual customer or an actual entity like a company. And once again, that's when you're adding customers, you're defining them either as an individual or a company. One of the new feature enhancements that was released in a recent software release. The house account payment option is going to be accessible through the Credit Plus payment option, which I'll show you further in the presentation. And just for context, we're talking about, for example, if you're in a retail business, like a hardware store, for example, you can have house accounts functioning through Revel so that when your customers come in to purchase something, you can put it on the house account and then send an invoice to their company because they're a contractor. Some other use cases that we've heard of and seen, for example, would be perhaps a mess hall or a cafeteria where the residents or the employees who work there put whatever they order for lunch on a house account and then are billed at the end of the month. For our retail customers, this can also be known as commercial accounts. And for house accounts in QuickBooks, they can be viewed in QuickBooks through the house accounts in the chart of accounts. However, house account charges can be viewed in QuickBooks, but they will be managed through Revel, which we'll look at a little later. Now with setup, there have been a couple changes that were made back in our 2.19 product release. And it was really drastically revamped from the previous house account functionality. So in order to get this to function, we're going to be in the settings tab of the management console. To give you a kind of magnified view here, in the desired settings on the left, I've searched for house accounts and it brings up the settings on the right hand side. So to enable this functionality in the beginning, you would check off house account enabled, or if you want to enable it by default for every customer. And you can also designate a house account limit for every default house account that is enabled. Once it's turned on, you can move on to opening a house account for individual customers or companies. So this view is actually in our CRM tab. So when I click onto an individual customer, in this case, I'm looking at Don Julio's profile here, and checking off house account gives me the options on the right. So enabled here is where I can enable it for this individual customer. I can also view the balance and the max limit for this specific customer. Now, the icons to note here are the pencil icon and then the credit card swiping icon. The pencil icon allows you to edit the balance. You can edit the balance on the actual house account there. The credit card icon allows you to record a payment made on the house account. Now, I want to emphasize it's recording the payment. remember, this is the back end. We can't physically accept a payment from this icon or this screen here. So this is more of a record keeping functionality. If you're not in the on-site, for example, where you can accept the payment, but you just want to make a record of it, you can do so here. Now, ringing up a payment on the iPad POS, I want to go through this with you here. So starting out, using a house account as a payment option, we would ring up our order first and we have the balance as normal. Next, after hitting pay, remember I said that the house account payment functionality will live in Credit Plus. So when I tap on Credit Plus, I have the option here to select house account for my payment. Once I do that, I'm going to select the customer that has the house account, and I'm going to tap Add to Order. This will add the customer to the order and also pay out the balance of the order. So notice my balance is now 0. So that payment will now show up on that customer's house account. So to view this from the front end, not only for viewing, but if I wanted to also pay a house account, I will bring up my customers through the customers button and bring up my customer. And when I select my customer's profile, in the bottom left, you're going to notice a button that says house account. By tapping on that button, I'm brought to the house account management screen. So on the left, you'll see all the orders that were paid by this house account. It'll look similar to your pay screen. Basically, this is where you're going to accept the payment. In this case, I can say my customer is paying out the house account. It's already the end of the month. And the balance will become 0. And everything we're doing here will show up in the house account report, which looks like this. Okay. So this is in the reporting section of your management console. And the house account summary is going to provide the detailed summary of activity, which will include the payments that we just saw, charges, any adjustments, and the opening and closing balances of a customer. So looking at our Actions tab, so this is on the right side of the report here. Some of the icons look similar to what we just saw in the CRM tab. So here you can show or hide orders, payments, adjustments. You can also adjust the customer house account balance, meaning manually increase or decrease. And that is the window inset on the upper right. So there's the adjust customer house account balance window. There's the amount. I can make a remark, and then I can increase or decrease the balance. The payment icon, as I mentioned, it records a house account payment. The mail icon on the right here, the envelope with the @ sign, allows you to email a house account statement. So notice on the left, you can check one or multiple customers, so you can eventually email out invoices in bulk. You also have some exporting capabilities here in a CSV, PDF, or Excel format spreadsheet. And then you have the order payment. So the order payment is going to be the total amount of the order. The house account payment is what was charged on the house account. But house account payments cannot be made in offline mode. That's a note there for if you're accepting house account payments on the front end. All right. So once again, this is the reporting piece in the reporting tab. You have the adjusting balance there in the upper right. And then on the bottom right, you have the window if you were going to record the house account payment from the back end. So when it comes to invoicing and emailing out those statements, so you can filter through customers who have a balance in the last month, for example, check off all of those customers, and then send those statements out. So this is what it would look like here on the right. It's pretty clean and simple, pretty basic. And like I said, this can be done for individual or multiple customers at a time. All right, so venturing into QuickBooks here. So in future releases, you can look forward to integrated house account balances for individual customers. Until then, unpaid balances will post to a single asset account in QuickBooks. So it is recommended that you continue to manage your house accounts in Revel. So let me see here. From here, The credit memo, what you see here, will apply to your daily sales invoice, and it'll act as a payment for the house account transactions. So here's the one payment applied to the invoice, and the payment at the top right, you see the one payment made here. This is the credit memo. To view the house account liability in QuickBooks, you would navigate to the chart accounts in your QuickBooks file and select house accounts. All right. Now this account is an inventory type, so changing account type on this account can cause information sync to stop. So be sure not to change this account type. So each line that we see here comes in through the QVPOS customer account, as noted right here. At the very bottom, the QVPOS customer credit memo is the payment which satisfies the invoice. So if we look at this here, this $321.30 amount is in the increase column. So each time the house account is used as a payment, this will increase the amount in the house account. And each time the house account is paid by the customer, an invoice will create a payment to decrease the house account amount. All right, so circling back here, we have the credit memo. You have this view here. And then as a breakdown, this last screenshot, you have the line items. Okay, so quick, easy, simple run through here. Like I said, it wasn't going to take up the whole hour. But I want to pause here because I have heard some questions coming in. Do we have any other further questions regarding the house accounts?
I think we've answered the ones that have come in so far.
Okay.
It had more to do with the main misunderstanding was the use of the Credit Plus option. And while some people may not be able to see that already on their point of sale because it may not be a payment setting that's already been enabled, and working with your sales rep directly will be able to help with that.
Oh, yes. So yeah, enabling the Credit Plus payment option, support or the account rep can turn that on.
We just have one personal question. I'll go ahead and handle it from here.
Sure.
But I think we're good.
All right. So as highlighted here, if you would like to suggest a feature enhancement, maybe you've been using house accounts in the past and you have not yet seen some additional enhancement that you think could improve the feature, you can search feature request on support.revelsystems.com, and it'll bring you to a form where you can actually submit some information and details on what you would use the feature for. And that would give details to our product team, and they can take that into consideration when building out further future releases. All right. And furthermore, if you're currently using Revel's house accounts and have additional use questions, you can always email info@revelsystems.com for a detailed walkthrough. Once again, this webinar is being recorded and will be available in support on the training videos website. And if that's it.
So we have a question here.
Sure.
So can you enable customers for house account on the front end without doing anything on the back end? You'd need to at least get the house accounts enabled and set a general credit limit on the back end before you'd have that functionality showing up on the front end.
Right. I believe if you did set it up as the default option I showed in the beginning, so the house accounts are default with a default balance, and you created a customer, they would have that house account.
Can your house accounts enable for a customer type instead of all customers?
No, it wouldn't be broken down that finely. It's either you turn it on individually for each customer as they come, or you would turn on the default setting to turn it on for every customer that comes through. The only finer distinction you have there is when you're creating the customer, you choose between individual or company.
The question we have about filtering my searches of customers to show only the house accounts or set house accounts as a default search. We do have a report called the House Account Summary and the House Accounts Depreciated Report, where it will actually pull those customers for whom you have balances on, I believe. It may even include zero balance customers. I'm unsure. I'd have to check that. But there isn't a way to filter in your CRM at this point in time. who does have a house account and who does not, unless you're probably exporting and including the house account field. So you can export that information to an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can sort from there. Yes, and for house account payments, you can pick the date that it's paid. So whether you're actually processing a payment or you're generating an invoice and coming up with a payment date on that, it's completely selected by you. You would manage that entire process and go from there. Let's see. So, let me check one more thing. So Jing has a question on the front end or the back end. Could you clarify a little bit, Jing? We'll wait just a second for that to come in. And if you're referring to the CRM and being able to export it and filter it, you'd be doing that in the back end if that's what your question is. Okay, I think we're good.
Great. Well, once again, thanks everyone for attending, and we'll see you next time.